The morning started like any other Tuesday on Earth. People went to work, children went to school, and nobody looked up at the sky expecting their world to change forever. But at exactly 9:47 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, every television, radio, and internet connection on the planet went dead for 30 seconds. When the signals came back, there was only one message playing everywhere. People of Earth. The voice was cold and mechanical, speaking perfect English. We are the Galactic Dominion. Your planet has been selected for integration into our empire. Dr. James Wells was in his lab at the Deep Space Research Center when the broadcast began. He dropped his coffee mug, watching brown liquid spread across years of research notes. On the screen above his desk, a creature that looked like a tall, thin human with gray skin and glowing red eyes stared directly at him. I am Ambassador Krill, the alien continued. I speak for the High Council of the Dominion. We have watched your species for 67 of your years. We have studied your wars, your technology, your weaknesses. President Hayes was in the Oval Office when his chief of staff burst through the door. Sir, you need to see this right now. The president looked at the screen and felt his blood turn cold. Your planet will provide tribute to the Dominion, Ambassador Krill announced. 50% of all natural resources, 30% of your population for labor assignments, complete surrender of all military weapons and vessels. You have 7 standard days to comply. General Brooks was at the Pentagon surrounded by his staff officers. They all stared at the screen in stunned silence. The general's mind was already racing through Earth's defenses. Nuclear missiles, fighter jets, tanks, aircraft carriers, everything suddenly seemed like toys compared to what they were facing. Failure to comply will result in planetary sterilization, the ambassador said with no emotion in his voice. To demonstrate our commitment to this outcome, observe the fate of 3 worlds that chose resistance. The screen changed. It showed a blue-green planet covered with oceans and continents. Cities sparkled with lights across the night side. Then massive ships appeared in orbit. Dark triangular vessels the size of small moons. Beams of pure energy lanced down from the ships. Where they touched, the planet's surface turned to glass. The oceans boiled away. The atmosphere burned. In less than 10 minutes, a living world became a dead rock. This was Velos Prime, Ambassador Krill's voice explained. Population, 4 billion. They refused tribute. The second planet was smaller, covered in red deserts and silver cities. The same ships appeared. The same energy beams fell. The same destruction followed. Keth Minor. Population, 800 million. They also refused. The third world was beautiful with purple seas and golden continents. Its fate was identical to the others. New Taria. Population, 12 billion. Their resistance lasted 6 hours. The screen returned to Ambassador Krill's face. Your species has shown promise in warfare and technology. This is why you are offered the choice of tribute rather than immediate destruction, but make no mistake, the choice is tribute or death. There are no other options. Dr. Wells grabbed his phone and called his assistant. Get me Director Cole at Earth Defense Command. Now. Around the world, leaders were making similar calls. Emergency sessions were being organized. Military commanders were checking their weapons. Scientists were running calculations that all came to the same terrible conclusion. The Dominion fleet will arrive in 7 days, Ambassador Krill continued. Prepare your tribute. We will take what we require and leave your world functional. Resist and we will take everything, leaving nothing but ash and memory. The broadcast ended. Normal television programming resumed. But nothing would ever be normal again. Within an hour, every world leader was on a secure video call. President Hayes looked at the faces of presidents, prime ministers, and kings. They all wore the same expression. Fear mixed with desperate hope that someone somewhere had an answer. What do we know about their technology? Asked Prime Minister Chen of the European Federation. General Brooks pulled up a holographic display. Based on the broadcast, their ships are massive. The energy weapons they used on those planets are beyond anything we've ever seen. Our best nuclear weapons would be like firecrackers against them. What about our space defenses? Asked President Reeves of the African Union. We have 3 combat-ready space stations and maybe 50 armed satellites, General Brooks replied. Against what we just saw, they might as well be paper airplanes. The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Earth was defenseless. But Dr. Wells was thinking about something else. He was thinking about Project Prometheus, hidden deep beneath the mountains of Colorado. He was thinking about the quantum experiments that had been running for 15 years. He was thinking about discoveries that were so classified, even most world leaders didn't know they existed. There might be another option, Dr. Wells said quietly. Every face on the screen turned to him. President Hayes leaned forward. What kind of option, Doctor? I need to speak with Director Cole first. There are some capabilities that most people don't know about. What are you talking about? General Brooks demanded. I oversee all military research. What capabilities? Dr. Wells looked directly at the camera. The kind that might make the Dominion regret coming to Earth. 3 hours later, in a bunker 600 feet beneath the Pentagon, a small group of people gathered around a table. President Hayes was there, along with General Brooks and the heads of the CIA, NSA, and NASA. Dr. Wells sat at the head of the table next to a woman in a black military uniform with no name tag or rank insignia. This is Director Cole, Dr. Wells said. She runs the programs that officially don't exist. Director Cole activated a holographic projector. The room filled with images of strange devices, experimental spacecraft, and weapons that seemed to bend light around them. For the past 15 years, she began, we've been preparing for this day. Not because we knew aliens were coming, but because we knew that someday someone would threaten Earth's survival. General Brooks stared at the images. I've never seen any of this technology. That was the point, Director Cole replied. While everyone was building bigger bombs and faster jets, we were building something different, something that works by changing the rules instead of following them. She pointed to an image of a sleek black spacecraft. This is the prototype for our Ghost Fleet. Ships that exist in multiple dimensions at once. Weapons that don't destroy targets. They convince reality that the targets never existed in the first place. President Hayes felt a spark of hope for the first time since the broadcast. Are you saying we can fight them? Director Cole smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. Sir, I'm saying we can do something much better than fight them. We can show them what happens when you threaten humanity. Outside, people were panicking. The stock markets had crashed. Riots were starting in major cities. Religious leaders were calling it the end times. But deep beneath the Earth's surface, in facilities that didn't appear on any map, machines were humming to life. Machines that would soon teach the Galactic Dominion a lesson they would never forget. The countdown had begun. 7 days until the Dominion fleet arrived. 7 days until they learned why you should never corner a species that has spent its entire history finding new ways to kill its enemies. The elevator descended for what felt like forever. President Hayes watched the numbers on the display climb higher and higher. Level 50, 60, 70. They were going deeper underground than he thought possible. How deep does this go? He asked Director Cole. Deep enough that even nuclear weapons can't reach us, she replied. And deep enough that alien sensors can't detect what we're building down here. General Brooks stood beside them, still angry about being kept in the dark. I want to know why my own government has been hiding this from me. Dr. Wells adjusted his glasses. Because 15 years ago, we discovered something that changed everything. We found out that the universe doesn't work the way we thought it did. The elevator stopped at level 89. The doors opened to reveal a corridor that stretched beyond sight in both directions. The walls were lined with a strange metal that seemed to shift color when you looked at it directly. Welcome to the Prometheus facility, Director Cole said as they walked, home to humanity's greatest achievement and biggest secret. They passed through multiple security checkpoints. Each one scanned them with devices that looked nothing like normal technology. The scanners hummed with energy that made the hair on their arms stand up. What exactly is Project Prometheus? President Hayes asked. It started as an attempt to understand quantum mechanics, Dr. Wells explained. But we discovered something incredible. Reality isn't fixed. It can be changed, rewritten, edited like a computer program. They entered a massive chamber that took their breath away. The room was the size of an aircraft hangar, filled with machines that defied description. Some floated in midair without any visible support. Others seemed to exist only partially, fading in and out of view like mirages. Dr. Martinez approached them from across the room. She was a small woman with tired eyes, but her smile was bright with excitement. "Mr. President, you need to see what we've accomplished." She led them to a platform overlooking the facility's main workspace. Below, technicians in special suits worked on devices that hurt to look at directly. The machines bent light around them, creating rainbow patterns in the air. 16 years ago, we intercepted a radio signal from deep space, Dr. Martinez began. It wasn't alien communication. It was something much more interesting. It was raw data about how reality itself is constructed. General Brooks frowned. "I don't understand. What do you mean how reality is constructed?" "Think of reality like a computer program," Dr. Wells said simply. "Everything you see, everything you touch, it's all just information. And if you know the right codes, you can edit that information." Dr. Martinez activated a holographic display. It showed a small metal cube sitting on a table. "Watch this," she said, typing commands into a console. The cube began to change. First it became a sphere, then a pyramid, then something that had too many sides to count. Finally, it simply wasn't there anymore. "Where did it go?" President Hayes asked. "Nowhere," Dr. Martinez replied. "We convinced reality that it never existed in the first place. It's not destroyed or hidden. It literally never was." General Brooks stared at the empty table. "That's impossible. So is faster than light travel, but the aliens do it," Director Cole said. "The difference is, they're still following the old rules. We learned to make new ones." They moved deeper into the facility. Captain Torres met them at the next section, standing beside something that looked like a spacecraft but wrong somehow. It was there and not there at the same time, existing in a state that made their eyes water. "This is the ghost ship prototype," Captain Torres explained. "It exists in 17 different dimensions simultaneously. When it moves, it doesn't travel through space. It chooses which version of space it wants to exist in." "How fast can it go?" General Brooks asked. "Speed isn't the right question," Torres replied. "It doesn't move fast. It just decides to be somewhere else, and then it is." President Hayes felt his worldview cracking. "How long have you been building these things?" 12 years for the ships," Director Cole answered. "But the weapons have been in development for longer." She led them to another chamber. This one was filled with devices that looked deceptively simple, small metal boxes with glowing panels, but the air around them shimmered with barely contained energy. Commander Nash stepped forward to greet them. He was a young man with the confident bearing of someone who had seen impossible things and learned to accept them. "These are quantum disruptors," he explained, gesturing to the devices. "They don't shoot bullets or energy beams. They rewrite the fundamental laws of physics in a small area around the target." "What does that do?" President Hayes asked. "Imagine if gravity suddenly worked backwards for your enemy's ship," Nash said. "Or if the strong nuclear force just stopped working in their hull. Their atoms would literally fall apart." Dr. Wells pulled up another display, but the real breakthrough came 5 years ago. We learned to weaponize time itself. The display showed a strange device that seemed to exist in fast forward and slow motion at the same time. Around it, the air moved in impossible patterns. "We call it a temporal anchor," Dr. Wells explained. "It can age a target by thousands of years in seconds, or reverse its timeline until it becomes raw materials." General Brooks finally found his voice. "Why wasn't I told about any of this?" "Because we needed the aliens to underestimate us," Director Cole said simply. "Every intelligence agency in the galaxy has been watching Earth for decades. They've seen our nuclear weapons, our jets, our satellites. They think they know what we're capable of. But they don't know about this," President Hayes said, understanding dawning in his eyes. Exactly. They've studied human warfare for 67 years, just like their ambassador said. But they've only seen the warfare we wanted them to see. Admiral Kane joined them, appearing seemingly from nowhere. He was an older man with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much. The Sol defense grid has been operational for 3 years, he reported. 237 quantum weapons platforms, disguised as communication satellites, each one capable of rewriting local physics in a sphere 10,000 kilometers across. And the fleet? Director Cole asked. 47 ghost ships ready for deployment, each one crewed by volunteers who understand they'll be fighting in 17 dimensions at once. President Hayes looked around at the impossible technology surrounding him. Can we actually win against the Dominion? Director Cole's smile was cold and sharp. Sir, we're not going to win against them. We're going to do something much worse. What's worse than losing? General Brooks asked. Making them wish they'd never heard of Earth, Admiral Kane replied. Making them understand that humans don't just fight wars. We reinvent what war means. Dr. Martinez activated one final display. It showed a map of the solar system, dotted with thousands of energy signatures that had been invisible to alien sensors. They think they're coming to collect tribute from a primitive species, she said. Instead, they're walking into a trap that violates every law of physics they understand. The countdown is at 6 days, Commander Nash reported. All systems are green. Quantum anchors are charged. The Ghost Fleet is ready for deployment. President Hayes took a deep breath. For the first time since the alien broadcast, he felt something other than fear. He felt anticipation. What's our first move when they arrive? He asked. Director Cole looked at the displays showing humanity's secret weapons, technology that could rewrite reality itself, ships that existed in multiple dimensions, and weapons that turned the laws of physics into suggestions. We give them exactly what they asked for, she said quietly. We give them tribute, just not the kind they're expecting. Above them, on the surface world, people were still panicking. Governments were debating surrender. The media was calling it humanity's darkest hour. But deep beneath the earth, in chambers that shouldn't exist, filled with technology that couldn't work, humanity's greatest minds were preparing to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Aliens thought they knew what humans were capable of. They were about to learn they were wrong. 7 days had passed since the ultimatum. Around the world, people held their breath and watched the skies. News channels showed empty streets in major cities. Some people had fled to underground shelters. Others gathered in churches, temples, and mosques to pray. Many simply sat at home with their families waiting. But in the hidden chambers beneath the earth, humanity's defenders were ready. Captain Reed stood on the bridge of the Defiance, humanity's flagship that existed in 17 dimensions at once. Through the impossible viewscreen, he could see normal space, hyperspace, and 14 other realities layered on top of each other. His crew moved with practiced efficiency, their special suits allowing them to interact with controls that existed in multiple dimensions. Sir, alien ships are entering the outer solar system, reported Lieutenant Fox from her station. Her console showed energy readings that would have been meaningless to any human from a week ago. Admiral Kane's voice came through the quantum communicator from Earth Defense Command. All stations, this is Control. Operation Prometheus is now active, remember. We give them one chance to leave. After that, we show them what humans really are. Fleet Commander Vex stood in the command center of his massive dreadnought, the Eternal Dominion. The ship was 5 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to turn continents into ash. Behind him, 300 more warships of the Dominion, fleet spread across space like a dark cloud. Communications officer, send the final demand, Vex ordered. His voice carried the authority of someone who had conquered 47 worlds. The message broadcast to Earth was simple. Your time is finished. Prepare for collection of tribute. Any resistance will result in immediate planetary cleansing. In the Earth Defense Command Center, Director Cole sat at a console that hummed with quantum energy. Around her, Screens showed the positions of every alien ship, every hidden human weapon, and probability calculations that changed faster than human eyes could follow. "Sir, they're moving into the inner system," reported Commander Nash. 300 ships total. The largest is impressive. President Hayes stood behind Director Cole, watching humanity's fate unfold on screens that showed impossible mathematics. "How do we compare?" "In traditional terms?" "They outgun us 1,000,000 to 1, Cole replied calmly. "But we stopped fighting. Traditionally, 15 years ago, Dr. Wells monitored the quantum field generators from his station. All reality anchors are stable. Physics is holding steady in our local area, ready to initiate changes on your command." The alien fleet moved into Earth's orbit with the confidence of predators approaching helpless prey. Their ships arranged themselves in a perfect formation designed to intimidate and overwhelm. Gunports opened, energy weapons charged. Shield generators hummed with power. Fleet Commander Vex looked down at the blue-green planet below. Such a beautiful world. It will make an excellent addition to the Dominion. Communications, prepare to receive their surrender. Instead, Earth's response came from an unexpected source. "Alien Fleet, this is Director Cole of Earth Defense Command," the transmission began. The voice was calm, almost polite. "Thank you for your ultimatum. We have prepared our tribute as requested." Vex smiled, showing sharp teeth. "Intelligent species. They understand the futility of resistance. However," Cole continued, "our tribute is not what you might expect. You demanded 50% of our resources, 30% of our population, and all our military assets. Here is our counteroffer. You have 30 seconds to leave our system. After that, you become the tribute." The alien command bridge fell silent. Vex's communications officer looked confused. "Sir, I don't understand their response." "They're trying to sound brave before they surrender," Vex laughed. "Typical primitive behavior. Begin the demonstration. Destroy one of their cities to show them we're serious." The lead dreadnought's main weapon began to charge. Energy readings climbed toward levels that could vaporize mountains. The massive gun turret rotated toward Earth's surface. That's when humanity decided to introduce the Dominion to new rules of warfare. "Execute Operation Prometheus," Director Cole said quietly. Deep beneath the Earth, Dr. Martinez typed a single command into her console. Quantum anchor activated. The Dominion's lead dreadnought simply ceased to exist. Not exploded, not destroyed, not vaporized. One moment it was there, 5 kilometers of alien death machine, and the next moment it had never been there at all. The space it occupied became empty vacuum, as if the ship had never existed. Fleet Commander Vex found himself floating in space. His command ship gone, his crew gone, everything gone. Emergency protocols kicked in as his environmental suit activated, but his mind couldn't process what had happened. "Report!" he screamed into his communicator. "What happened to my ship?" "Sir, the Eternal Dominion is gone," came a terrified voice from another vessel. "It's not destroyed, it's just not there anymore." Captain Reed watched from the bridge of the Defiance as the alien fleet panicked. Impressive. They removed a 5-kilometer ship from existence without affecting the surrounding space, not even a ripple. "Sir, alien fleet is attempting to retreat," Lieutenant Fox reported. "Too late for that," Reed replied. "All ships, execute Phase 2. The Ghost Fleet shimmered into visibility around the alien formation. 47 human ships appeared simultaneously in 17 different dimensions, surrounding the Dominion vessels in a cage of impossible geometry. Commander Nash activated the Sol defense grid. 200 hidden satellites revealed themselves, their quantum weapons charging with energy that made space itself bend and twist. "Alien Fleet, this is Captain Reed of the Earth Defense Force," he broadcast. "You wanted tribute. Allow us to demonstrate what humanity considers a fair exchange." The nearest Dominion cruiser tried to fire its weapons. The energy beams emerged. From the gun ports traveled 3 meters, then aged 10,000 years in an instant, becoming nothing but scattered particles. "Temporal anchor engaged," Dr. Wells reported from Earth. Their weapons are aging to dust before they can reach us. Another alien ship attempted to jump to hyperspace. Its drive engaged, the ship began to phase into faster-than-light travel, then suddenly snapped back to normal space with half its hull missing. "Dimensional lock successful," reported Lieutenant Fox. "They can't escape to hyperspace. We've convinced reality that hyperspace doesn't exist in this area." Fleet Commander Vex, now commanding from a backup ship, watched his fleet die in ways that violated everything he understood about warfare. His ship's shields turned against them, becoming prisons that compressed their hulls. Their own gravity generators reversed, tearing vessels apart from the inside. "What are these weapons?" he demanded from his science officer. "Sir, they're not using weapons," came the terrified reply. "They're changing the laws of physics. Our shields obey their commands now. Our own systems are turning against us." A Dominion battleship tried to ram one of the human vessels. The Defiant simply existed in a different set of dimensions as the alien ship passed harmlessly through the space where it appeared to be. "Fascinating," Captain Reed observed. "They're still thinking three-dimensionally." Dr. Martinez activated another system from her underground control room. Quantum disruptor, engaged, converting their hull materials to component elements. The ramming battleship began to dissolve. Its metal hull separated into individual atoms which floated away in neat, organized patterns. The crew inside found themselves breathing vacuum, their ship literally forgetting how to be solid. In less than 10 minutes, the Dominion's fleet of 300 warships was reduced to scattered debris and escape pods. Not one human vessel had been damaged. Not one human life had been lost. Fleet Commander Vex floated in an escape pod, staring at the impossible scene around him. His entire fleet, the pride of the Dominion military, had been destroyed by weapons that shouldn't exist using physics that couldn't work. "This is Fleet Commander Vex to any Dominion vessels," he broadcast desperately. "Retreat immediately. Earth is not a primitive world. They have weapons that rewrite reality itself." Captain Reed's voice responded to his broadcast. "Commander Vex, you're free to leave. Take this message back to your empire. Earth is under human protection now. Any attempt to return will be met with escalating responses." "What do you want? From us?" Vex asked, his voice broken. "Nothing," Reed replied. "We want nothing from you. But if you threaten any world under our protection, we'll come for you. And next time, we won't be so gentle." As the surviving alien escape pods fled toward the edge of the solar system, Earth's impossible weapons powered down. The quantum anchors stabilized. The Ghost Fleet phased back into their hidden dimensions. Director Cole turned to President Hayes in the command center. "Sir, the alien fleet has been neutralized. Earth is secure." President Hayes looked at the displays showing empty space where 300 alien warships had existed minutes before. "What happens now?" "Now we send a message to the galaxy," Cole replied. "Earth is no longer prey, we're the predators now." Above them on the surface world, people emerged from their shelters to see the stars unchanged. They didn't know that humanity had just rewritten the rules of galactic warfare. But across the galaxy, species that had lived in fear of the Dominion for thousands of years were about to learn that everything had changed. The hunters had become the hunted. Day 7 arrived with clear skies across Earth. In New York, London, Tokyo, and every major city, people stayed inside and watched the news. Emergency broadcasts played on every channel, showing empty highways and closed schools. The world held its breath. But deep under the Colorado mountains, Captain Reed adjusted his uniform and walked onto the bridge of humanity's most impossible creation. The Defiance existed in multiple realities at once, its hull shimmering between dimensions like oil on water. "Status report," Reed said to his crew. Lieutenant Fox checked her instruments. The readings showed energy patterns that would have been magic to humans just days ago. "Sir, long-range sensors detect 300 alien vessels entering our solar system." "Size and weaponry?" Reed asked calmly. "The largest ship is 5 kilometers long. Energy output suggests it could destroy entire continents. The smaller vessels could level cities." Reed nodded. "And our fleet?" 47 ghost ships ready, sir. all existing in 17 dimensions simultaneously. Quantum weapons charged and ready. On Earth's surface, Admiral Kane stood in the main command center, watching displays that showed impossible mathematics. Around him, technicians worked at consoles that hummed with barely contained energy. "Admiral, the alien fleet is broadcasting," reported Commander Nash. The message filled every screen in the facility. Fleet Commander Vex appeared, a tall, gray-skinned alien with glowing red eyes and an expression of cold authority. "Humans of Earth," Vex began, his voice echoing with the power of someone who had conquered dozens of worlds. "Your 7 days are finished. We have come to collect our tribute. 50% of your resources, 30% of your population, all military assets. Comply now, or face extinction." Admiral Kane activated his own broadcast transmitter. "This is Admiral Kane of Earth Defense Command. We have prepared your tribute as requested." On his flagship, Fleet Commander Vex smiled with sharp teeth. "Intelligent. They understand that resistance means death. However," Kane continued, "our tribute may surprise you. You wanted our military assets. Here they are." Around Earth's orbit, 200 satellites suddenly changed. What had appeared to be simple communication devices revealed their true nature. Each one unfolded like a metal flower, exposing quantum weapon cores that made space itself ripple with power. "What are those?" demanded Vex's science officer. "Unknown, sir. They're generating energy readings that shouldn't be possible." Meanwhile, in the deep underground facility, Dr. Wells monitored systems that violated every law of physics he had learned in school. All quantum anchors stable. Reality manipulation field at full power. Director Cole sat at the main control station, her fingers poised over controls that could rewrite the fundamental rules of existence. "Alien fleet is moving into attack formation. Time to show them what humans really are." President Hayes stood, behind her, watching humanity's fate unfold on screens showing mathematics that bent his mind. "Are we really going to win this?" "Sir, we're not going to win," Cole replied with a cold smile. "We're going to teach them why they should never have come here." The Dominion fleet arranged itself in perfect formation above Earth. 300 warships, each one capable of destroying human cities, their weapons charging with enough energy to crack continents. Fleet Commander Vex looked down at the blue planet below. Soon it would be another conquered world in the Dominion's empire, another species reduced to slavery. "Begin the demonstration," he ordered. "Destroy one of their cities. Show them the price of defiance." The main gun of his flagship began to charge. Energy readings climbed toward levels that could vaporize mountains. The massive weapon rotated toward Earth's surface, targeting a cluster of lights that marked a human city. That's when humanity decided to introduce the galaxy to new rules of warfare. "Execute Prometheus Protocol," Director Cole said quietly into her communicator. In her underground laboratory, Dr. Martinez typed a single command: "Quantum anchor engaging. Target locked." Fleet Commander Vex watched his main display as the weapon reached full charge. "Fire," he commanded. The weapon fired. Energy blazed toward Earth's surface. Then the energy beam simply stopped existing, not blocked, not deflected. The beam fired, traveled 3 meters from the gun, then aged 10,000 years in an instant, and crumbled to dust. "What happened?" Vex demanded. "Why didn't our weapon reach the target?" His science officer stared at impossible readings. "Sir, the energy beam. It got old. Somehow it aged and died before it could travel." But that was just the beginning. "Initiating Phase 2, Captain Reed announced from the Defiance. "All ships, reveal yourselves." 47 human vessels shimmered into existence around the alien fleet. They appeared simultaneously in normal space, hyperspace, and 15 other dimensions surrounding the Dominion ships in a cage of impossible geometry. Fleet Commander Vex stared at his tactical display. "Where did those ships come from? How did they get past our sensors?" "Sir, they weren't there, and then they were," his tactical officer replied, voice shaking. "Our sensors say they exist in multiple realities at once." "Impossible. Ships can't exist in multiple dimensions. Apparently human ships can, sir. The nearest Dominion cruiser tried to fire at one of the human vessels. Energy beams lanced out from its weapons, striking the target directly. The beams passed harmlessly through the human ship as if it were made of mist. "Target the ship," Vex screamed. "We are targeting it, sir. Our weapons are hitting it, but it's existing in different dimensions than our energy beams." Captain Reed watched the alien weapons fire uselessly at his fleet. "Pathetic. They're still thinking in 3 dimensions. Commence the tribute collection." Dr. Wells activated another system from his underground station. Dimensional lock engaged. Their escape routes are now closed. 3 Dominion ships tried to jump to hyperspace. Their drives engaged. The ships began to phase into faster-than-light travel, then suddenly snapped back to normal space with pieces missing. "Sir, we can't jump to hyperspace," reported a panicked alien voice. "Something is blocking our access. The humans have locked us in normal space," Vex's science officer reported. "They've somehow convinced reality that hyperspace doesn't exist here." Fleet Commander Vex felt fear for the first time in his long military career. "What kind of weapons are these?" His answer came from Captain Reed's broadcast to the alien fleet. "These aren't weapons, Commander. We're simply editing the rules of physics in our local area. Your ships now obey our commands." To demonstrate, Reed activated another system. The shields of the nearest Dominion battleship suddenly reversed themselves, becoming a crushing force that compressed the ship's hull like a tin can. "Our own shields are attacking us," screamed the battleship's captain before his transmission cut to static. Another alien vessel tried to ram the Defiance. The human ship simply chose to exist in a different set of dimensions as the alien vessel, passed harmlessly through empty space. "Impossible," whispered Vex. "Ships can't choose where to exist." "Human ships can," Reed replied, somehow hearing his comment. "We've taught our vessels to exist wherever they want to be." Dr. Martinez activated her final system. Quantum disruptor online, converting enemy hulls to component atoms. The ramming ship began to dissolve, its metal hull separating into individual atoms that floated away in perfect geometric patterns. The crew found themselves breathing vacuum as their ship forgot how to be solid. In less than 15 minutes, 300 Dominion warships became floating debris. Not one human vessel had been scratched. Not one human life had been lost. Fleet Commander Vex floated in an escape pod, staring at the impossible destruction around him. His entire fleet, representing the best of Dominion military might, had been destroyed by weapons that rewrote reality itself. "This is Vex to any Dominion vessels," he broadcast desperately. "Retreat immediately. Earth has weapons that change the laws of physics. We cannot fight them." Captain Reed's voice responded calmly. "Commander Vex, you're free to leave. Take this message to your empire. Earth is under human protection. Any further threats will receive escalating responses." "What do you want from the Dominion?" Vex asked, his voice broken. "Nothing," Reed replied. "We want nothing from your empire. But if you threaten Earth again, we'll visit your worlds. And we won't be as gentle next time." As the few surviving escape pods fled toward deep space, Earth's weapons powered down. The quantum anchors stabilized. The Ghost Fleet faded back into their hidden dimensions. In the command center, President Hayes stared at displays showing empty space where hundreds of alien ships had existed minutes before. "What happens now?" he asked Director Cole. "Now the galaxy learns that humans don't just fight wars," she replied. "We reinvent what warfare means." Above them, people emerged from shelters to see unchanged stars, not knowing that humanity had just become the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The tribute had been paid, but not by Earth. 2 weeks after the battle at Earth, the Dominion's High Council gathered in their capital city on the world of Nexus Prime. The massive chamber had witnessed the conquest of 2,000 civilizations. Today, it hosted an emergency session that would determine the Empire's survival. Archon Vel, supreme ruler of the Dominion, sat on his throne of black metal and stared at the surviving officers from the Earth expedition. His red eyes burned with fury and something else, fear. "Explain to me." Vel said slowly. How 300 of our finest warships were destroyed by a primitive world that barely has space travel. Fleet Commander Vex stood before the council, his uniform torn and his confidence shattered. Archon, they have weapons that change reality itself. Our ships didn't just explode. They stopped existing. Their vessels exist in multiple dimensions at once. Impossible, declared General Kane, the Dominion's chief military strategist. No species has ever developed such technology. Tell that to my dead crews, Vex replied bitterly. I watched a 5-kilometer dreadnought simply vanish. Not destroyed. It never was. Their weapons age our energy beams to dust. Their ships phase through our attacks like we're shooting at ghosts. Archon Vel leaned forward. You're telling me that humans can rewrite the laws of physics? Yes, Archon, and they're not done with us. Before Vel could respond, his communications officer burst into the chamber. Archon, we're receiving reports from the outer colonies. Human ships have been sighted in 7 systems. What? Vel stood from his throne. Show me. The chamber filled with holographic displays showing star maps. Red dots marked Dominion worlds under attack. But the attack patterns made no sense. The humans weren't conquering. They were hunting. On the world of Keth Prime, Commander Park stood in the ruins of what had been the Dominion's largest military base. Around him, his soldiers searched through empty bunkers and vacant barracks. Status report, Park said into his communicator. Lieutenant Mills checked her scanner. Sir, the base is completely empty. No bodies, no debris, no signs of battle. It's like the entire military installation just wasn't here anymore. Park nodded. This was the 7th Dominion base they had found in the same condition. Any civilians harmed? None, sir. The nearby city is untouched. The humans left the population completely alone. That was the pattern everywhere. Human forces would arrive. At a Dominion world, remove every military installation from existence, then broadcast a simple message to the civilian population. You are free. The Dominion no longer controls this world. Evacuate military personnel immediately. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Reed monitored the hunt's progress. His ship phased between dimensions as it traveled from system to system, impossible distances covered in moments. Sir, we've cleared 12 systems, reported Lieutenant Fox. All Dominion military assets removed. Civilian populations are intact and have been warned. Excellent. What's our next target? The fortress world of Sec Major. Intelligence suggests it's a major training facility for Dominion officers. Reed smiled grimly. Time to give them a lesson they'll never forget. Back on Nexus Prime, panic spread through the Dominion command structure. Reports flooded in from across the Empire. Military bases simply vanishing. Warships found floating. In space, their crews aged to dust while their hulls remained pristine. Orbital defense platforms that had existed for centuries suddenly becoming empty space. How many systems have we lost? Archon Vel demanded. General Kane consulted his reports with shaking hands. 15 systems in the past week. But that's not the worst part. They're not taking the worlds, they're freeing them. What do you mean, freeing them? The humans remove our military presence completely, then broadcast messages telling the population they're no longer under Dominion rule. Several worlds have already declared independence. Vel's fury burned hotter. How many ships do the humans have? Our scouts report seeing the same vessels in multiple locations simultaneously. Either they have thousands of ships, or their vessels can exist in many places at once. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. Humanity had 47 ghost ships, but each one existed in 17 dimensions. From the aliens' perspective, it looked like an endless fleet appearing everywhere at once. On the mining world of Breck 7, Sergeant Miles stood watching Dominion soldiers load onto transport ships. The aliens moved quickly, their faces filled with terror. None of them wanted to be present when the humans decided to make the military base disappear. Sir, the last transport is leaving, reported Corporal Davis. The mining colony is now free of Dominion military presence. Miles activated his communicator. Control, this is Bravo Team. Breck 7 is clear. The miners have been informed they're no longer slaves. Director Cole's voice came back from Earth. Acknowledged, Bravo team. Proceed to your next target. Miles looked up at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, the Dominion Empire was crumbling. Not through conquest or invasion, but through precision strikes that removed their ability to control others. The pattern was always the same. Human ships would appear without warning. Dominion military forces would try to fight back. Their weapons would age to dust. Their ships would dissolve into atoms, or they would simply stop existing. Then the humans would broadcast their message and move on. Within a month, the Dominion had lost control of 50 star systems, not through territorial conquest, but through the systematic removal of their military power. On Nexus Prime, Archon, Fel called another emergency council session. The chamber was half empty. Many council members had fled to distant worlds, hoping to escape the human hunt. Status report, Vel demanded from the remaining generals. We've lost 60% of our outer territories, reported Admiral Chen, the only high-ranking officer brave enough to deliver the news. The humans aren't interested in ruling the worlds they free. They just remove our ability to control them and leave. What about our core worlds? Still secure, but for how long? These humans can appear anywhere, anytime. Our defenses are useless against weapons that rewrite reality. Vel slammed his fist on the throne. There must be something we can do. We are the Dominion. We have ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Archon, Admiral Chen said quietly. Perhaps we should consider negotiation. Negotiation? Vel's voice rose to a roar. With primitive humans? They're not primitive anymore. They're the most advanced military force in the galaxy. And they're systematically dismantling our empire. Before Vel could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the capital city. Emergency broadcasts filled every screen. Human vessels detected in the Nexus. System. All military personnel report to emergency stations immediately. Captain Reed materialized on the bridge of the Defiance in orbit above Nexus Prime. Through the view screen, he could see the Dominion capital, a massive city of spires and towers that housed the government of a galactic empire. Sir, the planet has substantial military defenses, reported Lieutenant Fox. Orbital platforms surface to space cannons, fighter squadrons. Are there civilian populations mixed with the military installations? Reed asked. Yes, sir. The capital city has both government buildings and residential areas. Reed considered this. Humanity's new doctrine was precise. Remove military threats while protecting civilians. But this would require delicate work. Activate the precision. Quantum disruptors, he ordered. We're going to perform surgery on their capital. Dr. Wells's voice came through the quantum communicator from Earth. Captain, the disruptors are calibrated for surgical precision. You can remove specific buildings while leaving others untouched. Excellent. Begin the operation. On Nexus Prime, Archon Vel watched from his palace as impossible things began happening to his capital. Military barracks simply vanished, leaving empty lots between untouched civilian homes. Weapons factories disappeared, while the schools next to them remained perfectly intact. The orbital defense platforms aged to dust in seconds, but the space stations housing civilian workers continued operating normally. They're taking apart our military piece by piece, Admiral Chen whispered in amazement. But they're not harming anyone else. Vel realized the truth with growing horror. The humans weren't conquering the Dominion. They were performing a precise amputation, removing the Empire's ability to wage war while leaving everything else intact. Captain Reed broadcast to the planet below. Nexus Prime, this is Captain Reed of the Earth Defense Force. Your military installations have been neutralized. Civilian populations are unharmed and will remain so. This is your final warning. The Dominion Empire is finished. Surrender now, or we will continue removing your ability to threaten others. In his palace, Archon Vel stared at the empty spaces where his greatest weapons had stood just minutes before. His empire, built over 3 millennia of conquest, was being methodically dismantled by a species they had underestimated. For the first time in his long life, the supreme ruler of the Dominion understood what it meant to be prey. The hunt was almost over, and humanity was just getting started. 6 months had passed since the Dominion first demanded tribute from Earth. Now, Archon Vel stood alone in his throne room, staring out at a capital city that had become a shadow of its former power. Half the military installations were gone, erased from existence by human weapons. The other half stood empty, their personnel fled to distant worlds. "Archon," came a voice from behind him. Admiral Chen entered the chamber, her uniform wrinkled and her eyes tired. "We've received reports from our last 3 military strongholds." Vel turned slowly. "Let me guess. The humans found them." "Yes, sir. Fortress Omega, the Keth defense grid, and our training academy on Vel Prime. All military assets removed. All personnel given 24 hours to evacuate." Vel laughed bitterly. 24 hours, how generous of them. It had become the human pattern. Arrive without warning, remove every weapon and military installation from existence, then broadcast the same message. Military forces have 24 hours to evacuate. Civilian populations are safe and free. "How many worlds have we lost?" Vel asked. "All of them," Chen replied quietly. "Every world in the Empire has declared independence. We control nothing beyond this palace." On Earth, President Hayes stood in the same command center where humanity's fate had been decided 6 months earlier. But now the displays showed a very different galaxy, one where the Dominion Empire existed only as a memory. "Final report," Director Cole announced to the assembled leaders. "The Dominion military has been completely neutralized. Every weapon, every base, every warship has been removed from existence." "Casualties?" asked General Brooks. "0 human casualties. 0 civilian casualties among former Dominion populations," reported Admiral Kane. "Our precision was perfect." Dr. Wells looked up from his monitoring station. "The galaxy is responding positively. 17 former Dominion worlds have requested Earth's protection. 43 have established peaceful governments. No conflicts reported." President Hayes felt a strange mix of pride and responsibility. "What about the Dominion leadership?" "Archon Vel and his remaining council are on Nexus Prime. No military assets left, no ability to threaten anyone," Cole replied. "They're effectively powerless." Meanwhile, Captain Reed stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the final act unfold. His ship hung in orbit above Nexus Prime, along with the entire human fleet. 47 ghost ships existing in 17 dimensions, surrounding the Dominion capital in a display of power that was both magnificent and terrifying. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet," reported Lieutenant Fox. "Put it through." The view screen showed Archon Vel, looking older and more tired than when this all began. The supreme ruler of a dead empire spoke with a voice that carried no authority. "Captain Reed," Vel began, "I request permission to speak with your leaders." "You're speaking to them now," Reed replied. "I have full authority to negotiate on behalf of Earth. Then I formally surrender the Dominion Empire to human authority." Reed was quiet for a moment. "We don't want your empire, Archon. We never did." "Then what do you want?" "Nothing from you. But we want something for the galaxy. Peace. No more conquered worlds. No more enslaved populations. No more tribute demanded from the defenseless." Vel's shoulders sagged. "The Dominion is finished. Our military is gone. Our weapons are destroyed. We have no power left." "Good," Reed said simply. That was the point. On Nexus Prime, in the abandoned halls of the Dominion High Council, the remaining government officials gathered for their final meeting. The chamber that had once echoed with plans for conquest now held only a handful of broken leaders. "What happens to us now?" asked General Kane, the last remaining military officer. Vel looked around the empty chamber. "The humans have made their position clear. We're free to live on any world we choose, as long as we never again attempt to build a military force." "They're not going to execute us?" asked another council member. "Apparently not. They seem more interested in preventing future wars than punishing past ones." Admiral Chen accessed her personal communicator. "Sir, I'm receiving reports from across the former empire. The humans are establishing something they call the Galactic Protection Agreement. What does that mean? Any world can request human protection from invasion or conquest. In return, they promise to settle disputes peacefully and never to attack other worlds. Vel understood. The humans weren't building an empire. They were building something far more dangerous to would-be conquerors. They were building peace. Back on Earth, Dr. Martinez worked in her laboratory making final adjustments to humanity's new role in the galaxy. The quantum weapons that had destroyed the Dominion were being reconfigured for a different purpose. Status. On the protection grid? Asked Director Cole over the intercom. Almost complete, Martinez replied. We're establishing quantum monitoring stations in key systems. If anyone tries to build conquest fleets like the Dominion, we'll know immediately. And response time? With the Ghost Fleet's dimensional capabilities, we can reach any threatened world within hours. The galaxy was learning new rules. Species that had lived in fear for millennia were discovering that they could develop peacefully without worrying about invasion. Trade flourished between worlds that had once been enemies. Scientific advancement accelerated when resources weren't needed for weapons. But the most important change was psychological. Every species in the galaxy now knew that there was a force watching, waiting, ready to respond to any attempt at conquest with overwhelming and precise retaliation. 3 months later, Captain Reed received an unexpected visitor on the Defiance. Ambassador Tren of the Velka Republic, a species that had been enslaved by the Dominion for 800 years, stood on his bridge. Captain Reed, Tren began, my people wish to express their gratitude. No thanks necessary, Ambassador. We did what needed to be done. But why? Tren asked. You gained nothing from freeing us. You asked for no tribute, no territory, no resources. Why did you help us? Reed looked out at the stars through the view screen. Because someone needed to. The Dominion ruled through fear for 3,000 years. They convinced the galaxy that conquest was natural, that the strong should prey on the weak. And you proved them wrong. We proved that there's another way. The strong can protect the weak instead of exploiting them. Back on Nexus Prime, Vel spent his days in a small apartment, no longer a ruler but simply an old man reflecting on his choices. He had received an offer from the humans, come to Earth and help establish guidelines for peaceful governance, share knowledge of what had made the Dominion so destructive, so it could never happen again. He had accepted. On his last day as a free citizen of Nexus Prime, Vel recorded a message that would be broadcast across the galaxy. I am Vel, former Archon of the Dominion Empire. For 3 millennia my people ruled through fear and violence. We told ourselves it was natural that conquest was the way of the universe. We were wrong. He paused, looking at the empty palace visible through his window. The humans taught us, a lesson that every species should remember. True strength isn't the ability to conquer others, it's the wisdom to protect them. The Dominion demanded tribute from Earth. Instead, Earth gave the galaxy something far more valuable: freedom. 1 year after the first human victory, President Hayes stood before the United Nations, addressing not just Earth's leaders but representatives from 200 worlds across the galaxy. Today marks the first anniversary of the Galactic Protection Agreement, he began. 200 worlds have joined. 0 conflicts have occurred between member species. Trade has increased by 400%. Scientific cooperation has advanced our understanding of the universe by decades. The audience, human and alien alike, listened in respectful silence. But most importantly, Hayes continued, children across the galaxy are growing up in a universe where they don't have to fear conquest or enslavement. They can dream of exploration, discovery, and cooperation instead of war. In the back of the assembly hall, Director Cole watched the proceedings with quiet satisfaction. The weapons that had destroyed an empire now protected a galaxy. The species that had learned to rewrite physics now used that knowledge to rewrite the rules of civilization itself. The Dominion had demanded tribute from Earth. Instead, they had given humanity a purpose that would last for millennia, ensuring that no species would ever again have to choose between slavery and death. The galaxy, had learned a new phrase, spoken in dozens of languages across hundreds of worlds. They're only human, but now it meant something different. It meant that sometimes being human was exactly what the universe needed. The empire had fallen. In its place rose something better. Not another empire, but a promise that conquest would never again be tolerated. The tribute had been paid in full. The price was tyranny itself. Earth issued one warning. The Galactic Empire didn't listen. The stars looked different from the observation deck of the EDF Defiant. Admiral William Carter noticed it every time he stood here. After 30 years in Earth's defense force, he still felt small beneath the vast sea of lights. He placed his weathered hands on the rail and took a deep breath. The calm before the storm. "Admiral, we've detected unusual activity at the edge of the solar system," said Lieutenant Susan Reed as she approached. Her normally steady voice carried a hint of concern. Carter nodded. "Show me." They walked together to the command center, their footsteps echoing through the corridors of Earth's flagship. The Defiant represented humanity's best technology, a marvel of engineering that had taken 15 years to build. Yet Carter knew that in the vastness of space, even their greatest achievements might seem primitive to other civilizations. The command center buzzed with activity. Officers moved with purpose between stations, their faces tense but focused. On the main screen, a cluster of unusual energy signatures pulsed at the edge of Pluto's orbit. "They appeared 20 minutes ago, sir," said Communications Officer Greg Howard. "Nothing like we've ever seen before." "Numbers?" asked Carter. "Over 300 vessels, sir. The smallest ones are about the size of our largest carriers." The room fell silent. Earth had 12 carriers in total. "Are they responding to our signals?" Carter asked. "No, sir. But they're moving toward us. Slowly, but with clear intent." Carter stood straight, his mind racing through possible scenarios. He had trained for first contact, but not for first contact with a fleet of this size. The implications were clear. This was not a peaceful exploratory mission. "Alert all Earth Defense Force ships. I want every available vessel ready for deployment within the hour," he ordered. "And get me a direct line to the World Council." As the officers carried out his commands, Carter studied the approaching fleet. Their formation suggested military discipline. The way they moved, their coordination, implied a species that had mastered interstellar travel long ago. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the largest vessel," Reed announced. "On screen," Carter said, adjusting his uniform. The screen flickered before revealing a creature unlike anything Carter had seen before. It stood tall, at least 7 feet, with a hard, chitinous exoskeleton. Multiple eyes blinked independently. Across its face, and when it spoke, mandibles clicked around a mouth filled with teeth. "Greetings, inhabitants of the third planet," the creature said in perfect English. "I am Admiral Zex Troll of the Galactic Hegemony. Your world has been noticed by our scouts and deemed suitable for inclusion in our empire." Carter kept his expression neutral. "This is Admiral William Carter of Earth's Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with other civilizations, but we do not recognize any claim of authority over our planet." The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Your recognition is not required, Admiral Carter. The hegemony has incorporated 10,000 worlds into our collective. Your species will benefit from our protection and guidance." "Earth is not seeking protection or guidance," Carter replied firmly. "We are a sovereign world with our own path. A path that will now merge with ours," Zextral stated. "We have studied your world for some time. Your technology is primitive. Your military capabilities are limited. Resistance would only lead to unnecessary damage to your infrastructure and population." Carter felt a cold anger rising within him. The casual dismissal of humanity reminded him of history lessons, of conquerors who viewed native populations as simple obstacles to overcome. "How long have you been watching us?" he asked. "Long enough to understand your limitations," the alien responded. "We know of your internal conflicts, your resource challenges, your slow progress toward the stars. The hegemony will accelerate your development, under proper supervision, of course. Officer Howard leaned close to Carter and whispered, "Sir, we're detecting energy buildups in their fleet. They're activating weapon systems." Carter gave a slight nod before addressing the alien again. "The people of Earth have fought long and hard for their freedom, Admiral Zextral. We have no interest in becoming anyone's subjects." "It is not a matter of interest, Admiral. It is inevitable. We offer two paths: peaceful integration as a protectorate with minimal oversight, or resistance followed by direct occupation. The outcome is the same, only the cost differs." Carter noticed how the alien spoke. Not with malice, but with the absolute certainty of someone who had never faced real opposition. The hegemony had conquered 10,000 worlds. Why would Earth be any different? "How much time do we have to consider these options?" Carter asked. "Your species has 24 Earth hours to accept our generous terms," Zextral replied. "When we next speak, I expect your world leaders to be present with their declaration of submission." Carter felt the eyes of his crew upon him. In their faces he saw not fear, but resolve. Humans had always been at their best when faced with impossible odds. "We will convey your message to Earth's leadership," Carter said carefully. "But I must warn you, Admiral Zextral, humans don't respond well to threats." "A warning? Your species amuses me, human." The alien's laughter echoed through the bridge. "Your primitive technology and limited numbers make you insignificant. We have conquered 10,000 worlds. Earth issues one warning to your empire," Carter said, his voice steady and clear. "Leave our system now." The alien commander's multiple eyes blinked in what might have been surprise before narrowing. "You have 24 hours, Admiral. Use them wisely." The transmission ended. Carter turned to his officers who awaited his orders. "Contact Earth immediately. Activate Protocol Omega." "Protocol Omega, sir?" Reed asked, her eyes widening. "But that's only meant for exactly this scenario," Carter finished. "They believe they know us. They think they understand what we're capable of." He looked back at the screen where the alien fleet loomed. "They have no idea what humanity does when backed into a corner." As the Defiance quantum communications array sent its coded message to Earth, Carter returned to the observation deck. The stars still looked different from up here, but now they carried a new meaning. Among those distant points of light were 10,000 conquered worlds, 10,000 civilizations that had faced the hegemony and fallen. Earth would not be the 10,001st. They had their chance, he whispered to the stars. Below him, throughout the ship and across the solar system, humanity's true defenses began to awaken from their careful disguise. The hegemony would soon learn why Earth had issued only one warning. Earth issued one warning: the Galactic Empire didn't listen. In the hegemony's command vessel, High Commander Velnax received reports of strange energy patterns coming from Earth's orbital installations. The massive ship, nearly 5 miles long, dwarfed anything humans had ever built. Its central command chamber hummed with activity as hundreds of officers monitored the primitive planet they were about to claim. "What do you make of these readings?" Velnax asked his science officer, pushing a data pad across the smooth metallic surface between them. Science Officer Krulak studied the information, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "Likely their primitive defenses powering up," he said with a dismissive click of his mandibles. "Nothing concerning. Their technology is centuries behind ours." Velnax nodded, satisfied with this explanation. In his 200 years of service to the hegemony, he had overseen the conquest of 17 worlds. None had offered meaningful resistance. Some had tried to fight, usually the younger species who hadn't yet learned the futility of opposing the hegemony. Their struggles always ended the same way. "Has Admiral Zextral made contact with their leaders?" he asked. "Yes, Commander. He spoke with one of their military officials. As expected, they made empty threats before requesting time to consider our terms." Velnax made a sound that passed for laughter among his kind. "They always do. Have we identified their planet's key defense installations?" "Yes, Commander. Their primitive satellites were easy to access. We have mapped all major military facilities, power plants, and government centers. Our first strike will disable their command capabilities within minutes." Good. Prepare the fleet for possible deployment. When their time expires, I want to be ready to demonstrate our power." As the hegemony forces positioned themselves for what they expected to be a simple show of force, followed by a quick surrender, they failed to notice something important. The humans weren't behaving like other species they had conquered. There was no panic, no frantic military movements, no desperate last-minute attempts at diplomacy. On Earth, Dr. Olivia Mason stood in a vast underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room around her contained no weapons in the traditional sense. No missiles, no gun batteries, no fighter craft. Instead, rows of quantum processors lined the walls, connected to a network that spread throughout the solar system. "Status report," she said to her team of scientists and engineers. "Protocol Omega is at 97% activation," replied her assistant, Paul Wright. His fingers moved rapidly across multiple screens. "All orbital platforms are synchronized. The Jupiter and Saturn defense grids are online." Mason nodded, checking her own terminal. What the hegemony didn't understand, couldn't understand, was humanity's unique development path. While other species focused on building bigger ships with more powerful weapons, humans had been forced to innovate differently after nearly destroying themselves a century earlier. "They expect us to fight the way they do," Mason said quietly. "That's why we'll win." The quantum entanglement network that secretly connected every human settlement, from Earth to Mars to the mining colonies on Europa, hummed to life. Unlike conventional communications that the hegemony could easily intercept and jam, this network operated on principles that the aliens had never mastered. "All stations report ready," Wright announced, waiting for the signal from Admiral Carter. Mason watched the countdown on her screen. The aliens had given Earth 24 hours. Admiral Carter would use every minute of that time to ensure all systems were prepared. "Do you think they'll actually leave if we show them what we can do?" asked Wright. Mason shook her head. "They've conquered 10,000 worlds, Paul. Their empire spans half the galaxy. They don't know how to back down." She looked up at the massive display showing the alien fleet. They had their chance to leave peacefully. Aboard the EDF Defiant, Admiral Carter received confirmation that Protocol Omega was fully activated. Earth's true defenses were ready. He turned to Lieutenant Reed, who stood at attention nearby. "Open a channel to Admiral Zexitral," he ordered. The alien's face appeared on screen moments later. "Your time is up, human. What is your answer?" "We decline your offer," Carter said simply. "Earth will remain free." The alien commander's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. "Then you choose the hard path. Remember, the destruction that follows is of your own making." "Actually," Carter replied, "I was about to say the same to you. You were warned to leave our system." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across the alien's features. "You cannot seriously believe your primitive species can stand against the might of the hegemony." Carter allowed himself a small smile. "We don't intend to stand against you, Admiral. We intend to show you why humans don't make threats. We only issue warnings. Once." He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. "Initiate first phase." Throughout the solar system, devices that had appeared to be simple research stations or communication relays began to change. On Mars, massive hangar doors hidden beneath the red soil slid open. In the asteroid belt, mining operations transformed into weapons platforms. Even on Earth's moon, structures that had been disguised as scientific outposts revealed their true purpose. In the hegemony fleet, alarms began to sound. "Commander," a junior officer called out with panic in his voice, "we're detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the system." Velnax moved quickly to the main tactical display. "Explain." "The readings are impossible," the officer stammered. "The energy levels are beyond anything in our database." "Show me," Velnax demanded. The display changed to show Earth and its surrounding space. Where moments before there had been only a primitive defense network, now there were energy signatures blooming everywhere. From the planet's surface, from its moon, from Mars, from Jupiter's moons, even from what appeared to be empty space. "How could we have missed this?" Velnax whispered. Science Officer Krulak studied the readings with growing alarm. They concealed their true technology level. But this is impossible. No species develops this way. But humans had. After nearly destroying themselves in wars using conventional weapons, humanity had taken a different path. They didn't build massive fleets or planet-destroying bombs. Instead, they had learned to manipulate the fabric of reality itself. As the hegemony fleet moved into position for what they expected to be a simple occupation, their sensors detected nothing unusual until it was too late. Their arrogance had blinded them to the simple fact: humans didn't fight like other species. The first indication that something was very wrong came when 3 hegemony dreadnoughts simply vanished from space. No explosions, no debris, just gone in an instant. Impossible, Velnax roared as the tactical display showed 3 massive gaps in their formation. Scan the sector again. But the officer at the scanner could only shake his head in confusion. They're gone, Commander. And we're detecting more energy buildups throughout the system. Velnax realized too late that the humans had not been bluffing. They had issued one warning, and the Galactic Empire hadn't listened. Now they would. Learn why that had been a terrible mistake. Earth issued one warning. The Galactic Empire didn't listen on the bridge of the human ship Challenger, now cloaked by technology the hegemony couldn't detect. Captain Alan Rodriguez watched the confusion spread through the enemy fleet. His vessel was positioned less than 10 miles from the hegemony command ship, yet completely invisible to their sensors. Gravitational fold successful, Captain, his science officer, Dr. Diane Wells, reported. Her fingers danced across the control panel as data streamed in. The captured ships are being pulled into the fold space now. Our teams are ready to begin analysis. Rodriguez nodded, his expression calm despite the enormity of what they had just accomplished. 3 massive alien warships had been removed from normal space without firing a single conventional weapon. The vessels and their crews were intact, merely relocated. Begin Phase 2, he ordered. And patch me through to Admiral Carter. The main screen flickered to show the Admiral's face. Behind him, the bridge of the Defiant was a hive of coordinated activity. Phase 1 complete, sir, Rodriguez reported. The fold generators performed beyond expectations. The hegemony ships are contained in the Jupiter pocket dimension. Carter's serious expression broke into a slight smile. Excellent work, Captain. Their reaction? Complete confusion, sir. They're scanning wildly but finding nothing. Their formation is breaking down as ships attempt to avoid whatever happened. To the others. Perfect. All ships proceed with Phase 2. Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden defenses activated. Not the conventional weapons the hegemony had expected, not missiles or laser arrays or fighter squadrons, but something far more dangerous. Weaponized physics. Centuries earlier, when humans had nearly destroyed themselves in global wars, they had made a collective decision. Rather than building ever larger weapons, they would develop technologies that could control the fabric of reality itself. While other species focused on bigger ships and stronger armor, humans had quietly mastered quantum mechanics, gravity, manipulation, and dimensional engineering. The warning had been genuine. Humanity hadn't spent its resources building a fleet to match the hegemony. They'd been mastering the fundamental forces of the universe. In the asteroid belt, a small station that had appeared to be a simple mining operation now revealed its true purpose. The device inside generated a controlled quantum field that affected matter at its most basic level, causing atomic bonds to temporarily weaken. A wave of energy, invisible to normal sensors, rippled outward. As it passed through 5 hegemony cruisers, their hull plating simply lost cohesion. The metal didn't melt or explode, it simply fell apart into its component atoms. The ship's atmospheres vented instantly into space, leaving the vessels dead and drifting. Near Mars, another human installation activated. This one created a localized singularity, a tiny controlled black hole that appeared in the center of Io, a hegemony carrier group. 7 ships were caught in its gravitational pull, crushed beyond recognition before the singularity collapsed back into nothing, leaving only twisted debris behind. And perhaps most terrifying of all, the nanite swarms, deployed from Earth's lunar bases. developed from humanity's deep understanding of microscopic systems, an evolution of what had once been called viruses and bacteria. These intelligent machines were too small to be detected by hegemony sensors. They attached themselves to enemy ship hulls, then burrowed inside, multiplying and spreading. Within minutes, they reached critical systems, reconfiguring alien technology from within. The first sign of their work came when 6 hegemony destroyers suddenly turned their weapons on their own fleet, their systems now under human control. On the hegemony command ship, panic had replaced confidence. Velnax struggled to make sense of the reports flooding in from all directions. "We've lost contact with the 3rd Battle Group," an officer shouted, "and the 7th Hunter Division is firing on our own ships." "How is this possible?" Velnax demanded. "Where are these attacks coming from?" Science Officer Krulax stared at his readings in disbelief. "Commander, these aren't conventional attacks. The humans are somehow manipulating reality itself. These energy signatures don't match anything in our records." "Impossible. No species developed such technology without first mastering basic space warfare." "The humans did," Krulax replied, his voice shaking. "They took a different path. While we built bigger ships and stronger weapons, they learned to control the forces that govern the universe." On the main screen, they watched as another group of their ships simply vanished, pulled into what the sensors identified as a localized spatial anomaly. "We need to retreat," Krulax urged. "We cannot fight an enemy that controls space itself." Velnax hesitated. In 2 centuries of service, he had never ordered a retreat. The hegemony did not retreat. They conquered. They ruled. They were the supreme power in the galaxy. But as he watched his mighty fleet being systematically dismantled by an enemy they couldn't even see, he realized they had made a terrible mistake. This primitive species was anything but primitive. "Order all remaining ships to fall back beyond this system's outer boundary," he commanded. "Now." But the order came too late. As his communications officer attempted to relay the command, the ship's systems suddenly failed. Every screen went dark, then reactivated with unfamiliar symbols scrolling across them. "We're being taken over," Krulax said in horror. "Something is in our systems." A face appeared on the main screen, a human female wearing what appeared to be a scientific uniform rather than military garb. "This is Dr. Olivia Mason of Earth," she said calmly. "Your ship's systems are now under our control. Please remain calm. No harm will come to your crew if you cooperate." Velnax stood frozen, unable to comprehend how quickly their certain victory had turned to complete defeat. "How?" he finally managed to ask. "How did your species develop such technology without being noticed?" The human woman's expression remained neutral. "We learned long ago that true advancement doesn't come from building bigger weapons, but from deeper understanding of the universe itself. While your empire conquered through brute force, we studied the fabric of reality." On Earth, Admiral Carter received reports of the battle's progress. Within just 2 hours, over half the hegemony fleet had been neutralized. Some ships were captured intact, others were disabled. Some had been destroyed when they resisted too strongly. "Sir," Lieutenant Reed reported, "the remaining enemy vessels are attempting to flee the system." Carter considered this. The human forces could stop them all if they wished. Their fold generators and quantum disruptors could reach the edge of the solar system. Not a single alien ship would escape if he gave the order. But that wasn't the point of this demonstration. "Let some of them go," he ordered. "The hegemony needs survivors to carry our message back to their empire." "And what message is that, sir?" Reed asked. Carter turned to look at the tactical display, where the once mighty alien fleet was now in disarray. "The same one we gave them at the start," he said quietly. "Earth issues one warning. They chose not to listen. Now they understand why we only needed to warn them once." Earth issued one warning. The Galactic Empire didn't listen. The battle lasted less than 6 hours. In the great Imperial Palace on Zexitora, the hegemony's central administrative world, Empress Kavex received the impossible news. The mighty invasion, fleet that she had personally authorized to bring the insignificant blue planet into their empire, had been not just defeated but utterly dismantled. "This cannot be," she hissed, her clawed hands gripping the ornate throne. Around her, royal advisors and military commanders stood in stunned silence. "The report must be flawed." Grand Strategist Zelmach stepped forward, his normally confident posture now hunched with worry. "The report is accurate, Your Eminence. The survivors have confirmed it. The humans possess technology far beyond our understanding. They did not fight as we expected." "How many ships returned?" the Empress demanded. Zelmach hesitated before answering. 17, Your Eminence, out of 342. The throne room fell silent. The hegemony had not suffered such a defeat in over 1,000 years. "Send the second wave immediately," Kavex ordered, her voice rising with anger. "Double the fleet size. They cannot stand against our full might." Her advisor stepped forward cautiously. "Your Eminence, I must strongly advise against this action. The second wave has already been dispatched as per standard protocol when the first wave missed its check-in, but we've lost contact with those ships as well." The Empress rose from her throne, rage and disbelief warring on her features. "Impossible. How could this primitive species—" "There's more," the advisor interrupted, a breach of protocol that showed the gravity of the situation. "We're receiving reports of unknown vessels appearing in multiple systems throughout the Empire. They've bypassed all our defenses." On one such vessel, the EDF Retribution, Commander Nicole Foster addressed her crew. The ship had appeared in orbit around a hegemony military outpost in a system 50 light-years from Earth, a distance that should have been impossible to cross in mere hours. "The hegemony gave us no choice," she told her crew as they prepared for their mission. "Today we demonstrate why Earth's warning should have been heeded." The Retribution was one of 30 Earth ships deployed throughout hegemony space. Each carried the same quantum fold generators that had allowed them to essentially step outside normal space and reappear anywhere they chose. The technology made traditional concepts of distance meaningless. "Target their weapons platforms only," Foster ordered. "Minimal casualties. This is a demonstration, not a slaughter." Her weapons officer nodded, activating the ship's quantum disruptors. Beams of energy that could temporarily alter the atomic structure of matter shot out, precisely hitting the outpost's defense systems. Gun emplacements simply fell apart. Shield generators dissolved into their component atoms. Within minutes, the outpost was defenseless. Foster opened a channel to the hegemony commander. "This is Commander Nicole Foster of Earth. Your defenses have been neutralized. We have no desire to harm your people. This demonstration is to show that we can reach any part of your empire at will." Throughout hegemony space, similar scenes played out. Human ships appeared without warning, neutralized military targets with surgical precision, and broadcast the same message. Earth wanted peace, but would not tolerate threats. Meanwhile, on Omai, conquered worlds across the galaxy, something else was happening. For decades, humans had quietly established a presence throughout the galaxy. Disguised as traders, diplomats, and observers, they had been assessing the hegemony while preparing for eventual contact. On Velnar, a world conquered by the hegemony, a century earlier, human agent Jack Miller removed his holographic disguise. For 5 years, he had posed as a member of the native species, gathering intelligence and building a network of allies among those who chafed under hegemony rule. "It's time," he told the gathered resistance leaders. "Earth has engaged the hegemony directly. We can now offer you what we promised: freedom." Similar scenes occurred on dozens of worlds. Human agents revealed themselves, offering liberation to oppressed species. They brought with them technology that could neutralize hegemony control, systems and weapons that could counter Imperial forces. Back on Earth, Dr. Mason monitored these developments from her command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. The quantum entanglement network allowed instant communication across any distance, another technology the hegemony had never developed. "Phase 3 is proceeding as planned," she reported to Admiral Carter. "Our embedded agents are active on 27 worlds. The hegemony's control systems are being neutralized." Carter nodded, studying the holographic display that showed activities across the galaxy. "And the Empress? Has she responded to our message?" Not yet. But her options are limited. Our ships have demonstrated they can reach her homeworld at any time. On Zexatora, the Imperial Palace was in chaos. Reports flooded in from across the Empire, human ships appearing and disappearing at will, military installations neutralized, without warning, and most disturbing of all, subject worlds rising up against their rulers. How is this happening? The Empress demanded. How could a single primitive world threaten our entire empire? Grand Strategist Zelmach had no answer. The hegemony had always believed their greatest strength was their ability to project military power across vast distances. No other species had been able to match their faster-than-light technology or their massive fleet numbers, but the humans had simply made those advantages irrelevant. They didn't need vast fleets when they could appear anywhere instantly. They didn't need massive weapons when they could manipulate matter at its most fundamental level. "Your Eminence," the royal communicator announced, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth. They wish to speak directly with you." The Empress straightened her posture, trying to regain her composure. "Put it through." Admiral Carter's face appeared on the palace's central display. He wore no ornate uniform or symbols of rank, beyond a simple insignia. Nothing like the elaborate dress of hegemony commanders. "Empress Kavex," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I am Admiral William Carter of Earth." "You dare," the Empress began, but Carter continued speaking. "We did not seek this conflict. We issued one warning to your forces. They chose not to listen. Now we demonstrate why that warning was sufficient." "What do you want?" the Empress asked, her voice now subdued. "Peace," Carter replied, "but on equal terms. The days of your empire's unchecked expansion are over. Earth proposes a new relationship between our civilizations and with all the worlds you've conquered." The message was clear. The hegemony's era of dominance had ended the moment they had ignored Earth's single warning. A new power had emerged in the galaxy, one that did not seek to conquer but would not be conquered, and they had only needed to warn once. Earth issued one warning. The Galactic Empire didn't listen 1 month after the first contact with the hegemony. Admiral William Carter stood before the newly formed Galactic Council. The massive circular chamber had been built on a neutral space, station orbiting a star at the edge of what had once been hegemony territory. Representatives from over 200 worlds filled the room, some former hegemony subjects, others independent species who had watched the conflict with great interest. Carter wore his formal uniform, but it remained simple compared to the elaborate dress of many alien representatives. At his side stood Dr. Olivia Mason and Keith Bennett, Earth's chief diplomat. "The people of Earth thank you for coming," Carter began, his voice carrying through the chamber. "1 month ago, most of us were strangers. Some of you lived under hegemony rule. Others feared you would be next. Today, we meet as equals." The chamber remained silent, all eyes fixed on the human who represented the species that had somehow defeated the supposedly invincible hegemony. "Humanity doesn't seek to replace one empire with another," he continued. "We propose a federation of equals, with each species maintaining their sovereignty while contributing to our collective defense and prosperity." A tall, slender alien with iridescent skin rose from the delegation representing former hegemony worlds. This was Ambassador Shinlor, once a high-ranking imperial official who had quickly adjusted to the new reality. "Admiral Carter," the alien said, voice smooth and measured, "your species has demonstrated power beyond anything we have seen in 10,000 years of galactic history. Why should we believe you won't simply become the new hegemony?" It was a fair question. In the audience, Keith Bennett watched the reactions spread through the gathered species. The once mighty hegemony representatives sat in a small section, their numbers reduced, their power broken. Around them, former subject worlds and independent species regarded the humans with a mixture of hope and suspicion. "Because conquest was never our goal," Carter replied. "When the hegemony threatened Earth, we defended ourselves. When we discovered how many worlds suffered under their rule, we offered assistance. Not because we sought power, but because we understand all too well what it means to fight for freedom." He gestured to the holographic display that appeared above the council floor. showing images of Earth's history, humans fighting each other in terrible wars, then slowly coming together. 500 years ago, humans were killing each other over resources, territory, and ideology. We nearly destroyed ourselves. From that near extinction, we learned that true power comes not from controlling others, but from cooperation and understanding. Dr. Mason stepped forward. The technology we used against the hegemony wasn't developed for war. Our quantum manipulation field was created to solve our energy crisis. Our dimensional fold drive was meant for peaceful exploration. She touched a control, and the hologram changed to show human scientists working alongside alien colleagues. Already, we're sharing our medical technology with 47 worlds. The quantum entanglement network that once connected only human settlements now links 15 former hegemony planets, not for control, but for communication and cooperation. In the audience, representatives from those worlds nodded. The humans had kept their word, freely sharing advancements that the hegemony had always hoarded. A reptilian delegate stood next. How can a federation function when power is so unbalanced? Your capabilities exceed those of all other known species combined. Keith. Bennett moved to the center of the platform. As Earth's chief diplomat, he had spent the past month shuttling between worlds, listening to concerns and building trust. Power imbalances exist in any relationship, he said. The question is how we account for them. That's why the proposed charter includes checks and balances that prevent any single species, including humans, from dominating. He brought up details of the proposed federation structure. Unlike the hegemony's hierarchical empire, this would be a true coalition with distributed authority. Each member world retains control of its internal affairs, Bennett explained. The Federation Council requires a 70% majority for any action affecting multiple worlds, and the science exchange ensures that technological advancements benefit all members, the delegates murmured among themselves. The concept was radical. Nothing like the hegemony's iron-fisted rule or even the loose trade alliances that had existed in other parts of the galaxy. Ambassador Shinlor spoke again. And what of the hegemony itself? What happens to those who ruled us for so long? Admiral Carter turned to face the small group of former Imperial officials. They are welcome to join the Federation as equals, not as rulers. Their worlds, their people, their knowledge all have value, but their days of conquest are over. The hegemony representatives shifted uncomfortably. Some looked angry, others resigned. Their empire had stood for 10,000 years, only to fall in a single day because they had ignored a warning from a supposedly primitive world. After the formal session, Dr. Mason joined Carter in a private observation room overlooking the star field. The quantum network is being adapted for peaceful communication between all member worlds, she reported. And the nanite technology is being repurposed for environmental restoration on planets the hegemony stripped bare. Carter nodded, looking out at the stars visible through the vast windows. They thought our warning was empty pride. They never considered that a species that survived its own violent tendencies might have learned something valuable in the process. Do you think it will work? Mason asked. This federation? It has to, Carter replied. The alternative is to become what we fought against. Beyond the window, ships from a dozen worlds moved through space, working together to expand the station that would serve as the Federation's headquarters. Human vessels with their distinctive fold space drives worked alongside the massive carriers of former hegemony worlds and the sleek, organic ships of the Outer Rim species. As representatives from 100 worlds debated the structure of their new alliance, the truth became evident. Earth had issued one warning not out of arrogance, but because humans knew that true power lay not in conquest, but in the strength to show restraint until it became impossible. The Galactic Empire hadn't listened. Now, in its place, something better would grow.